Thank you very much. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here to share some research around technological change and fertility that we've been conducting, thanks also to funding by the European Research Council. Apologies for those who have seen parts of this talk before, but this is a little bit like advertising. I'm trying to repeat some issues maybe in order to have them ingrained. And indeed, some of the stuff was already in Nico's talk. So there is a little bit of that. So let me start from a general overview on technological change, then I'll talk about the Googlization of fertility, and I'll give some spatial evidence, since we are possibly in the right place on macro change, both on Germany and then on the world. Okay, technological change and fertility. Of course, technology matters for fertility. Here I put two kinds of technologies that are possibly relevant. The pills seem to have had an effect on fertility, according to most scholars. If you don't think so, please raise your hands. I'm not talking about that. Other medical advances have been mentioned, and there's some emerging line of research on for instance, improvements in infant health, but also assisted reproduction, which is one of the favorite workhorse of Thomas. The media have affected fertility. There's great research by my colleague Ariana Ferrara on soap operas in Brazil, for the Brazilians in the room. And household appliances. If you don't think that fertility is affected by the dishwasher or the washing machine, turn off your washing machine and live without that for a while. Okay. I'm not going to talk about this, but about the digital revolution, because that's the new technology, that's the new kid on the block. Some who know me know that I tend to touch upon issues and then maybe some every now and then run away. This is basically the revolution in terms of the graph by Pippa Norris on the digital divide. And this is the diffusion of technologies in the US. I'll show you some other data. The internet is basically going towards 100% of the household in a very short time. It took much longer to have phones around, and we'll see in some countries we'll never have fixed line phones, possibly. But the internet is there, and there are some challenges in studying the effect of the internet. It is so fast that social scientists didn't really think about gathering the data to understand what is going on. On the other hand, maybe a little bit of history is useful, and I will show you a renewed use of the European Social Survey of 2006. So why would internet and the digital revolution matter? Miko has already hinted at one of the mechanisms, but of course sex matters, and Belinda will talk about sex tomorrow. That's a sexy talk. I'm not going to talk about sex. But of course, internet, the biggest user of broadband is a poor user. So and that may have an effect on fertility in terms of consumption of rates of the internet. There is some research on the impact on teenage birth, and there is a discussed paper on the effect of MTV 16 and pregnant media show on teenage fertility. And then internet is potentially the new social intermediary, and it's not only the easy thing, which is online dating, that's easy. The difficult thing is that the internet is changing all relationships, independent of whether you've met online or not. And if you don't believe so, put away your mobile phone. The third mechanism is internet is a new way to provide information in an interactive way. So the media campaign of the past were one-sided. The new word is a word in which we actively seek information on sexual and reproductive health, but maybe on the consequences of postponing. We can know more about the lives of people who had children later through their Facebook or their Instagram page, and we can know more about our friends beyond the usual social network idea that was studied a lot in past fertility research. Search comes with a second-level digital divide, according to Esther Argentay, so there's differential ability to search for information. Possibly people in this room are well equipped on that. Fertility, so the internet is also changing contact with our kids or our parents. And digital contacts is an emerging line. Health and social integration is also affected, and health and happiness are also, we know, potential determinants of fertility. And we have a paper on sleep. If you are interested on sleep issues, come and talk to me. But let me go towards Googlization. The Googlization of everything. That's the book, and why we should worry. Of course, this is a field where there are lots of partisan views, but we have to try to deal with that in a decently scientific way. So what I did in Vienna was, okay, since Google is sensitive to where you search from, unless you turn the location down, this is what you get when you search in Vienna for Kinderbetreuungsgeld, so it's money. Even if people want time, Google, for the first thing, gives you money. And then there is a kindergarten, so time and childcare. In Wien, there's the doctor, and also the pushchair, and so on. Okay, this is when you start searching on Google for children in Vienna. And if you feel this is not correct, you can report to Google inappropriate predictions. Okay, which is the famous stuff that Donald Trump is, there was a bunch of negative outcomes. He could report to Google to erase these predictions. Okay, Googlization of fertility. This is from the 16 and pregnant paper showing that when there was a TV show showing the life of 16-year-old who were pregnant, suddenly search on contraception was spiking in the US. And this is Google Trends and Twitter. This is an old unpublished PAA paper on forecasting fertility through Google Trends, and I'm sure there will be papers published before this ever gets out. But here I'm showing something a bit different, and it's in a collaboration with Yusuf Yala, Emilio, and Ingmar Weber. And this was again on the Googlization, but a little bit more on the macro side. So this is also macro side. The macro side is we take US states, thanks to Google. There's a tool called Google Correlate where you can look at the searches that are correlated with any indicator input. It's pure cross-sectional, pure macro. No causality whatsoever. But in the US, we can estimate a bunch of different types of fertility rates. And I'm showing you some interesting findings. So if you take general fertility, which can be estimated for all states, the most correlated term is pregnancy work count. Okay, just as an example. Here you can see that Googlization is different for each of us. So if we take non-marital fertility, the correlated terms are about sexually transmitted infections, biblical names, paternity test. So this is, again, pure correlation, but is possibly, because we are not Google, we cannot get individual search, is certainly telling us about what happens around certain types of childbirth in the US. Here we go at the high end of the distribution. Rich, what is basically folks who have 200% of median income at least. What are the issues around rich fertility, post-pregnancy, Key, which is a baby stroller from Italy, by the way. And baby has a stuffy nose, and of course, flying while pregnant, which is possibly something that is there for the upper class. So the Googlization of fertility is there with some differences. Second part of Googlization is about the postponement of fertility and age deadlines. So this was done, I think, starting from now. If you start when it's too late to have a baby, to apply to medical school, to plant tomatoes, drink coffee. Is 30 too old for an MBA? Maybe I was at Bocconi. Medical school, become a pilot, get married, learn programming. When is it too late for an abortion to have kids? So basically, Google is telling us about our life, which is the mission. The book, The Googlization of Everything, is worried because one of the goals of the founders of Google is to help us take better decisions in every domain of life. And here, for instance, if you start to, when it is too late to have kids, you have an immediate suggestion on the chances of getting pregnant, and at 35, the decline in fertility begins to accelerate. So, again, going back in history, we are trying to revive old data. Now, I mean, it's not that old, it's old. European Social Survey 2006-2007. Why this is useful? Because the internet was not there for everyone at that time. One of the challenges is if we get to study now, it's much more difficult to study the impact of digitalization. And in this paper, we studied with Alice Goises, who's working on the new paper as well, and collaborators, what we call the social age deadlines for childbearing, and the determinants of this social age deadline. And this is, for instance, let's look at Austria, number one in alphabetical order. Concerning women, 97% of the sample thought that there was a limit, 37% thought the limit was below age of 40. For men, the percentage was lower. The mean of the limit here, sorry, for women was 44, and the mean of the limit for men was 50, and so on, for all countries. So please, if you are interested, look at the paper and cite the paper on human reproduction. So now what we do is, because of the mechanism on information, we believe there must be an effect of internet access on age deadlines and maybe on the postponement of fertility. And we are lucky because at that, if you take 2006-2007, there is a good variation in the number of people who use the internet. If you take the European Social Survey now, it will be much more difficult to do this study. For instance, and this is some country fixed effect regressions, it works also region fixed effect. The effect of using internet every day on the age at which we think women are too young is positive. So when you have internet access, you tend to report a positive, a higher age at lowest end of fertility. You report a higher age also for the upper limits, and also almost half a year more for the ideal age. This is for men, a very similar pattern. So basically, using internet every day is associated, we cannot say a lot about causality, with the postponement of age deadlines, both at a low level, at a high level, and in terms of ideal ages. This is work in progress with Alice Goises. So Googlization was an important mechanism. The second mechanism, the sixth mechanism here, is related to what Mikko has already mentioned. Time allocation and work-family balance is one way to do that. So basically the internet is changing the way we divide work and family. And you could have a negative approach. For instance, Dalton Conley has a book called Elsewhere, USA, which is how we got from the company man, family dinners, and the affluent society to the home office, BlackBerry moms, and economic anxiety. So basically, the internet is destroying the fabric of the family. You could have a different view and say maybe the internet is bringing a better opportunity to combine work and family, which is, I think, what Nico was referring to, maybe through telework. If that is the case, however, not all jobs can benefit for that. So there is another digital divide. The internet, just like in Google, is not as good as it is for the rich who can use the technology to combine work and family. So we are testing this, and I'm not testing the direct effect of development, which is basically if the internet is improving the economy and there is a positive relationship, then it's good for fertility. So on the a little bit more empirical evidence, I'll show you, I promise, Germany and the whole world. So Germany is useful because we can exploit a little bit geographical variation in a period in which broadband fertility was being rolled out, and also an instrumental variable approach that has been developed by other scholars, in particular Falk and colleagues. And the general idea is, let's study the effect of the deployment of broadband on fertility. And this is the deployment of broadband for the years we studied, 2008, 2010, 2012. And you see, in the end, we get to the coverage of the whole country with the exception of the city of Rostock. Or anyway, the areas around Rostock are the clear laggards in internet. But it was 2012, I'm sure now. So working in a perfect way. So it was, I'm sure when I was there, it was very light blue. The advantage is that one can exploit this deployment to sort of estimate, develop an instrumental variable. I'm happy to talk about that if the identification police is here. Otherwise, take my words. And the paper can be seen there. It's hopefully on a final way to population studies. Here are just two descriptive graphs that basically tell the majority of the story. This is high educated individuals, this is low educated individuals. This is comparing having access to DSL technology, which was the fastest technology at the time, and no access to DSL technology. And basically, if you take low educated individuals, there is no effect, and if anything, the internet seems to be negative, but technically there, and also in all regressions, there will be no effects. So the internet is not particularly affecting the fertility of low educated individuals, which may make sense. If the channel is really work and family, maybe it's a mix, maybe there could be some combination, but possibly it was not yet the era of the smartphones we have now, so we don't know if kind of the new technologies have a different effect. But the interesting bit is that here, when we look at the higher educated, the effect is positive on the later ages. So that's why there is the over-30 in the title, and I didn't cancel that. These effects are basically robust. This is descriptive when we do the regressions and instrumental variable approach. So broadband brings kids for higher educated German women. The effect is not statistically significant, but on the same side for men. We also estimate how come, what are the potential mechanisms. There is a positive effect on working from home, so the telework approach. There is an increase in part-time work. This is for women. However, there is a decrease in working hours. It's unclear whether this is potentially bad in the longer term, but it's certainly bringing more kids and higher life satisfaction. With more kids, of course, there is a bit more time dedicated to childcare. So one potential channel is that those who would have abandoned the labor market, which was a typical German issue, maybe stay in the labor market with part-time jobs, but also some of those who would have stayed with full-time jobs moved to part-time jobs, but then have kids. With the same approach we are working on a study on marriage. It's the same group, so it's already 2019 data, so anticipating the future, young women will not like me. And basically the same mechanism can be applied to marriage formation, but since this is not a marriage conference, I'm skipping it. And I'm going to the whole world, as I promised. And this is very tentative empirical evidence, but for a macro level conference, I thought maybe it was worth its large collaboration, including really Kasia from Oxford, Luca Pesando from Penn, and then Valentina was working in our ERC, and Simone Spinelli as well. Let us start from the quote by Mohammad Yunus: "The quickest way to get out of poverty right now is to have one mobile telephone." Okay. There is a lot of literature now on mobile phones and financial services, access to financial services. What we are interested in is a little bit more sustainable development goals, also in honor of Wolfgang. So also we look at sustainable development goals, ideally. Why mobile phones? And for those who don't know enough of this literature, can be skeptical. If you think that mobile phones are not particularly widespread, change your mind. This is cellular phones. Okay, then there is mobile internet. Just look at the green spots per inhabitants. Okay, it's a diffusion, like in the Pipanovis thing. In Europe, there is clearly more mobile phones than people. So those who have 2 mobile phones, you're not a complete outlier. But interesting, in Asia, the latest data with the Growth Committee are above 100%. And even in Africa, we're getting to a sizable share compared to the population. And I think technology scholars have accepted the idea that there will not be a landline diffusion to 100%. Possibly the mobile technology will be the only technology in many parts of the world. Okay. If you compare the landlines, for instance, to Europe, this is the landlines which have been pretty stable. Of course, more or less one landline per family plus work. The mobile phone revolution is there in the whole world. Okay, does it affect fertility, and if so, in which direction? You could say it's an engine of development, but we discussed the various mechanisms. So the various mechanisms may include more information, more social interaction. That's kind of mechanisms that we know are possibly pushing the demographic transition if fertility is high. And it may be a different mechanism compared to the mechanism we discussed in Germany, where we are talking about the combination of work and family. So some empirical evidence, it's a very macro level using DHS data and other estimates. Contraceptive prevalence and household with mobile phones, it's positive. Okay. I can give you all the regressions you like. It will be possible. Trust me, So the best contraceptive is development, and maybe mobile phones is a way to development. But there are specific issues connected to fertility, of course, that are enabled by the digital revolution. And here we are mostly talking of a situation in which it's not always a smartphone. So there are Google, for instance, in some countries is also giving you the results of search via text messages. But that's probably going to end pretty soon because we'll have a low-cost smartphones everywhere. This is infant mortality, which is a little bit tricky because of lags when using EHS data, but we are working on that. Okay, so does the digital revolution influence fertility? Here, the DHS has started to collect data on mobile phone ownership because it was an important issue. Although it was also discussed as a crucial issue because of potential family planning campaigns running through mobile phones. But this is also to show that if you take DHS respondents, penetration is varying across countries, but it's not negligible in any of these countries. So here the difference in penetration will go under the label of the digital divide. So having access to digital technology, and is that something that influences fertility just like in Germany? Here are our estimates from DHS data, so it's a micro-analysis using multi-level analysis or other type of approaches, and that there will be some instruments, if you like, instrumental variables that we can use using flash rates that are influencing access to mobile phones. And this is a linear probability model, so you can interpret that as a potential effect in terms of a percentage. This is whether the woman has a say on contraceptive use, so gender equality, one of the SDGs on gender equality. The use of contraceptive methods, about 10% effect. Knowing a place to be tested for HIV, which is a huge effect. And again, here we are not talking of instrumental variables. It may be that you want to get a mobile phone in order to know where to test for HIV, although that's a long chain of thought. This is an indicator, where is that? The DM is an indicator of equality in decision-making. There are various decision-making equality items in the EHS. And here are a little bit something related to the children's health, whether the woman was tested for HIV during antenatal visit and the number of antenatal visits. So the bottom line is that, I can show you some macro level analysis, and then we have EHS, but the digital revolution is influencing fertility, gender equality, decision-making, and even child health. And in the global south, this is only on a number of African countries, but we can generalize that. It influences, we could say, because it's also in the title, but it's also the spirit of this conference, in particular postponement. I didn't discuss a paper using data from Malawi where the postponement of first and second birth were clearly there. In the end, maybe postponement in these countries would lead to lower fertility. Here I'm really using modern contraception as the idea of spacing in this literature. And somehow the recuperation of fertility, and we see that from German data, but we have some other evidence from the US. There are multiple mechanisms through which the digital revolution is affecting fertility, and we are not yet able to disentangle of this mechanism. Again, this project is more of a start of a research agenda than the conclusion of that. And as usual, there are several challenges. The big challenge is data, connecting the digital revolution and fertility, also because we never thought the digital revolution would have an effect on fertility, and I put myself in that, being in the team designing the generations and gender survey questionnaire. We never thought to ask about the digital contact, so whether instead of phoning you have access to computers. I also blame myself. There's a lot of causality issues, but that's all over the place, as we know. And even if there is an effect, it's important to look at the mechanism. And thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer your questions and take your suggestions.